Hello, I'm Beth Webb. I'm a writer and I write children's books. Here's some of my books: Junkyard Dragon, The Dragons of Kilve, and Fleabag and the Ringfire. In fact, there's 3 Fleabag books. And I've come today to tell you about how to make up a story, because it's easier than you think. Lots of people ask me how I get ideas and how I write stories, but the big thing that most people say is they can't find an ending for your story. So what I'm going to tell you this morning should solve all of that, and it's easy and it's fun. And if you don't like writing, or you're not very good at writing, this is still for you, because there's thousands of ways to do stories. You can sing them, you can dance them, you can draw them. Writing them is good too, because that helps you remember them. But we're going to start with a story that you will all know, Little Red Riding Hood. And once we've done that, I'll show you how to put your own story together, and then it's over to you. So it's all easy peasy. Now, who is the story about? Well, Little Red Riding Hood, obviously. And where is she? Well, she's at home. And what does Little Red Riding Hood want or need? Well, she wants to go to Granny's house to take her some cake and lemonade. And why? Well, Granny hasn't been very well, and so Red Riding Hood's going to take her a treat and sit with her for a bit. So it might seem a bit bonkers to think about the end of the story, where is Red Riding Hood going, when you're still at the beginning. But it's very, very important. You have to know what your characters want or need, what their goal is, where they're going, so that you can tell how they get there. And if you don't have an ending where she's going, then you'd have poor Little Red Riding Hood wandering around the forest for ages and ages, which is a very dangerous place to be, especially with a big bad wolf around. Now I'm going to show you some drawings to help you understand how stories work. Now, this is Kim. You can decide whether Kim is a boy or a girl. I'm going to call him a boy because we've just had a story about a girl. Now, Kim is in the kitchen, and Kim wants some sweets, but Grandpa's put them right on top of the highest shelf, and so Kim can't reach. So you know who is in the story: Kim, where they are, in the kitchen, and what they want or need, the sweets. But how is Kim going to get what he wants? Kim looks around the kitchen and thinks, what can he use to help him get to the top? Kim is little and the shelf is high. So Kim doesn't need the cat bowl or the rug or his little brother's baby mug. They won't help him, unless of course the rug is a flying carpet, but I don't think it is, not really. Now Kim could use the broom and knock down the jar of sweets, but then the jar would break and Kim couldn't eat the sweets because they'd be covered in glass, so that won't work either. So what can Kim use? He could climb on the chair and then onto the table, and then he might be able to reach. No, it's still a bit high. He can't quite reach, can he? And then he spots the stool and he thinks, if I climb onto the chair and then onto the table and put the stool on the table, and then I might just be able to reach. Yay! And he can. Kim can get the sweets down. So you've got a vague idea of the ending, that Kim wanted the sweets. Now you've got to think about how it's going to end. You can end it any way you like. It can be funny, the dog getting the sweets; sad, Kim being sick; or sensible, Kim learning that he mustn't climb on chairs and put stools on tables and climb up because it's dangerous. Any way you like. But do you see how knowing who is in the story, Kim, where they are, in the kitchen, and what they want or need, the sweets, is a really good way to help you build a story? Now, there's lots more we can put in, but this is just story making for beginners. So now we know how a story is made. Let's think about Little Red Riding Hood again. Where is she at the beginning? At her own house. What does she want or need to get to Granny's house? And we've already thought about why, because Granny has been ill and she'd like some cakes and a visit to cheer her up. So we've got a good strong beginning and we know where we're going for the ending. Now the middle, as I've said, is how this all happens, how you get from the beginning to the end. And in Little Red Riding Hood's case, how is she going to get there? Through the woods. Who does she meet? The big bad wolf. And what happens when she meets him? Well, you know all of that. You can fill that bit in. But think about how you'd like the story to end. Maybe Little Red Riding Hood, Granny and the wolf actually all make friends and they all have tea together. Or maybe the woodcutter comes and kills the wolf or chases him away. What would you like to happen? It's your story. You can decide. Now, lots of people will tell you that stories have to be original and you mustn't use old stories. But I think the best place to start making stories is to start with a story you know and love and then retell it. So you can have Cinderella, Goldilocks, Three Little Pigs, Jack and the Beanstalk, whatever your favourite story is. But it's how you tell it that will make it original. You can put on a new ending or even add new characters if you like. So you choose your favourite story. It doesn't have to be a fairy tale, either drawing or writing on a big piece of paper, or both if you like, draw and write. Answer the questions. Who is in the story? Where are they? Then write down what do they want or need and why. Now remember, little Kim thought out the stages he had to go through to get from the floor to the top of the cupboard. It wouldn't have worked if he'd put the stool down and then climbed onto the table, because he couldn't have lifted the chair onto the table because he's only little. He had to get things in the right order. So your how is getting things in the right order to make sure you actually get to the ending. Little Red Riding Hood only had to put on her cloak, pick up her basket with the cake and lemonade, and then go off through the woods. Cinderella needed a dress and a coach. Now, what could she find to make them? Well, she found rats and mice and a pumpkin, didn't she? And Jack and his mum needed money. What could they sell? Well, they'd only got the cow left. Now think about why Jack sold the cow for beans. It was because he was too lazy to go to market, wasn't it? Now draw some pictures and write some notes to remind you of everything you've thought about. This is called a plan. Now, don't forget, if you think of a better idea while you're making your story, you can change your plan. It's just something to help you start. It's not something you have to stick to. Now you've got lots of drawings and notes, it's time for you to turn them into a story. How do you think you're going to make your story? Do you think you're going to dance it? Do you think you're going to sing it? Do you think you're going to write it or tell it out of your head? You can draw, dance and sing it. You can tell it in 100 different ways. You can do anything you like to make your story. And what will you do with your story once you've made it? Now I'll tell you a secret. When I started writing, I gave my stories as presents. I had no money, and so I wrote stories and gave them as birthday presents. But you could dance or sing your story or turn it into a poem, and then you can read it out and then you can send it to your grandparents or your cousins. You can do lots of ways of present making with stories. So why don't you have a go? Make a story. And don't forget, you need to know who's in it, where they are, what they want or need. It's quite useful to think about why as well, and then how they're going to get there. So it's dead easy. Who, where, what do they want or need, why, and how are they going to get there? Easy peasy. Give it a go. Make a story.